All right, well, next, we're welcoming to the stage Leslie. I think we've got you ready. 2 minutes, okay. We're just going to give Leslie a couple of minutes, and then we'll talk about the market insights to see what it looks like.
Hello. So let's start today with some Spanish industry trends. We will go, first of all, around the macro trends for Europe. The second point will be supply. We will go through the demand with a special focus on events. There will be also the Spanish market year-to-date performances, a quick outlook on 2025, and the bottom line challenges. So first, macro trends. To give a first overview on how Spain is positioned overall in Europe, quite positive if we look at the real GDP and the inflation. So in terms of real GDP, in terms of growth, you guys are positioned above the European average. So it looks quite good for 2025 as well for 2026. And if you look also at the inflation rate, you guys are in line as well, or slightly above the European average. So that gives you great tendencies for forward-looking performances. Unemployment rate is still quite high compared to the other European countries. If you look now on how Europe increase its hotels ADR compared to the labor wage. So you can see since 2010 that it's been quite in line, both the hotel ADR increase and the labor cost increase. And then, of course, during COVID times, well, there's been a drop in the hotel ADR, and then you can see in 2023 and 2024 that you guys were able, and everyone in Europe was able to increase the hotel ADR even more than the increase in the salary, in the European salary for hotels. And the last point on that is also good information on how the accommodation platforms, like how many room nights they've been selling throughout. In 2024, it's been the highest amount of room nights that have been sold since 2018. So a lot of room nights are still being sold on those platforms. A quick point now on supply. So here, in terms of chain supply, you can see that Spain is ranked #1 in terms of hotel chains throughout in Europe. UK is #2, and then you have Germany. But clearly, in Spain, you have a lot of chains hotels in the country. Then, if you look at a different type of profile of supply, you can see here that a lot of the supply in Spain is for upper mid-scale and luxury chains. Historically, Spain had predominantly budget and economy chains in the country, and there's been premiumization of the supply in the recent years, and this is what you see here with the biggest amount coming from the segments in the upper mid-scale and luxury chains. Quickly now, in terms of market with the strong players, you can see how it's filled. So the biggest part is with domestic brands. We will see later which one they are. And then you have the Spanish champions, and then international big brands, and then the global top 12. So for the domestic chains, the ones that are the most represented are the best Hoteles, Hoteles Global, Senator, Sercotel, and the others. Those are the biggest chunk represented in Spain. Then if we look now at the Spanish champion, who are they? Of course, you have the big ones like Meliá, Barceló, Hotels, Iberostar, and so on. And then for the international ones, it's mostly represented by German and French ones. With TUI, you have Minor Hotels, Pierre et Vacances, Groupe Lagrange, and the others. And then for the top 12, it's Marriott International, Hyatt, Accor, Choice Hotels. Then, we want to look at within what chain and global supply dynamics are in Europe. And here you can see that there's been some growth from 2019 to 2024 in terms of supply by 1%, but it's clearly driven by the growth in chain supply. So this is what you see here. If you want to make a point of comparison, for example, in Europe, the growth has been also around like 1%, but it's been driven by chain hotels with 2% supply growth. As far as the demand trends, I think there's a big question nowadays with Trump exposure and the impact that it has on his politics, and how Spain is exposed to the American travelers. We can see here that it's not going to be so badly impacted, and the consequences of whatever his decisions are won't be impacting your business necessarily. And if so, there should be some replacement strategy that you guys could come up with easily. It's very different if you look at Portugal, if you look at the UK or Italy, where they are more impacted by that US demand. Quick update now on the growth for the KPI. So for occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR, you can see here in terms of Southern Europe that they are the one driving the growth. From 2019 to 2024, you're one of the biggest growth in terms of RevPAR, with 33% increase in Spain. And from 2023 to 2024, there was a total of 12.9% increase. We can clearly see here that the southern markets are the one very emerging with the biggest growth at the moment and the coming up years. Events impact, I think it's quite important for you guys to really understand and see where you are located compared to where the events are happening in your cities, in your communities. We can see, for example, that during the different football games here, not everyone is impacted the same way. So, for example, here we can see that for events such as sports and football games in particular, for Barcelona periphery, they are the most impacted. But if you look at the Old Town, the Sagrada Familia, and all the others, they're not the first one impacted. So it's very important for you guys to understand where you are located compared to the event that is happening, because it's not the same impact on your properties. Quick update now on the year-to-date performances for your markets. So overall, April 2025 year-to-date, in general, we can see that in terms of occupancy, there's quite in line, the OR is quite in line with 2024 rates. What is really driving the growth in RevPAR is coming from the ADR. Then we look at, in terms of geographic, where it's happening the most. And we can see, the trends are quite similar throughout. Really, the ADR is the one pushing and driving your RevPAR growth at the moment. Here I'm just showing by main cities and autonomous communities. It's interesting to look also at the segment level. Overall, this is for a focus on Madrid. In Madrid as well, you can see minus 0.4% in occupancy year-to-date, when you already have 8% increase year-to-date in ADR, and then it's giving you a plus 7.7% increase in RevPAR. The main areas, it's quite interesting, that are driving that growth. Overall in ADR, everyone is performing quite well. The occupancy, though, is quite well performing in the city center, but the other parts of the city are still a little bit struggling in this first part of the year. We can see that the airport is achieving a 3.8% decrease since same time last year for the first 4 months of the year, but ADR-wise, great increase with some strong RevPAR growth as well. Now, with focus on Barcelona, same picture overall, strong change in RevPAR. A little bit less than what is happening in Madrid at the moment. And on the other side, you can see that the economy segment is performing almost like in line with same time last year in terms of occupancy, but the other parts, other segments are performing a little bit better in terms of occupancy. ADR is still pushing, but still in line with same time last year. Now, a little bit of forward-looking indicator. That gives you also some type of information as to what type of clientele stays within your property. Is it more corporate? Is it more leisure? So identifying what guests are staying the most on the weekend versus the weekend. Overall, the growth here are also pushed through the ADR. In terms of occupancy, it's quite in line with same time last year in Madrid, and it's slightly better than same time last year in Barcelona, both in occupancy and ADR. Quickly, that one will show you how your cities, the main cities, Madrid, Barcelona, are benchmarked against the other main cities in Europe. So it's quite strong occupancy, you know, you're reaching 72, 73%, so very competitive against what is Paris doing or London doing. And then in terms of ADR, strong growth as well, and as well in RevPAR. Quickly, an outlook now on what is to be expected for 2025. You know, overall, the Southern European countries, Portugal, Spain, Greece, is performing very strongly. And so in Spain, what we can see here is that we expect to have a RevPAR growth around 6%, mainly driven by the ADR, with a growth of 6.5% in ADR, when occupancy we expect it to be in line with what's happening or what's happened last year. Overall, we are quite positive for Spain. I think there's always a cycle in how the country is doing in terms of strategy. At the moment, clearly, you still have a lot of room for growth in terms of occupancy, but you're really pushing the ADR. And if we look compared to the other European countries, you're outperforming them really, really well in terms of growth for 2025, which is expected. And last but not least, the bottom line cost. It's quite interesting to see, you know, how your RevPAR growth is compared to the other main areas of cost and spending. And so you see that in terms of RevPAR growth from 2019 to 2023, there was a 17, almost like an 18% growth. If we look at the inflation rates from 2019 to 2024, it was around 17%, so quite in line with the other countries. And then staff hospitality cost was about 12.5%. I think what was very tough for this country here was the electricity cost, which was at plus 29.7%. And that, you know, gives you an idea of like, okay, how is my RevPAR growing in correlation to the other growth in terms of inflation and staff cost and utilities costs. That's it for me. Thanks for your attention.